Lena felt a surge of revulsion so strong it almost showed on her face. He reached for his glass. "I know how this sounds." "No," she said. "You really don't." For the first time that evening, annoyance hardened his tone. "Why do you keep coming if you think so little of me?" There it was. The injured ego beneath the charm. Lena answered carefully, "Because I'm still deciding whether you're honest in a terrible situation or simply terrible with honest language." He stared at her. Then slowly his mouth curved again. "I should be offended. But you're flattered." He laughed under his breath. "A little." Of course he was. The dinner ended after 1 hour and 20 minutes. Adrian walked her toward the elevator, hands in his pockets, moving with the calm confidence of a man who had never been seriously denied for long. When they reached the mirrored hallway near the lift, he stopped. "Lena? What? You still think I'm lying?" "Yes," he nodded once, as if expecting that. "Then let me do something I almost never do." She waited. "I'll tell you something true that makes me look bad." Lena's pulse sharpened. "All right." His gaze shifted away for a moment, then back. "A month ago, I started separating things. Things? Accounts, authorizations, certain decisions, certain exposures." The word struck her immediately. Exposures. Business language. Legal language. "What does that mean?" she asked. He gave a faint shrug. "It means I don't like being vulnerable where trust no longer feels mutual." Lena stared at him. "You're protecting yourself from your wife?" "From uncertainty." By hiding things? By structuring them. That sentence told her more than the content did. He said it too smoothly, too comfortably, as if he had already justified it fully in his head. "And does she know you're doing that?" He didn't answer at once. Then Vivian knows enough. Lie, Lena thought immediately. Not because she could prove it, because that answer was designed to close the door without sounding guilty. Before she could press further, the elevator chimed. Adrian stepped closer, not touching her, but near enough to make the moment intimate if she allowed it. "I'm not asking you to trust me yet," he said. "I'm asking you to keep listening." The elevator doors opened. Lena stepped inside. As the doors closed, Adrian held her gaze and said quietly, "I haven't felt this awake in a long time." Back in the car, Lena sent Vivian a message so fast her fingers cramped. He admitted he started separating accounts, authorizations, exposures about a month ago. Said he's structuring things because trust no longer feels mutual. He's moving carefully and justifying it. This time, Vivian did not text back. Instead, she called. "Come tomorrow morning," she said without greeting. 8 o'clock. The line ended. When Lena arrived, the atmosphere in Vivian's house had changed. The silence was tighter. The staff moved with the careful quiet of people who sense tension in the walls. Vivian was in a pale gray suit at the dining table, laptop open, papers spread before her, glasses low on her nose. She looked less like a wife today and more like something Adrian might actually fear if he were honest about what she was. "You were right," Vivian said as soon as Lena entered. Lena sat slowly. "About what?" "He's not just wandering emotionally, he's preparing materially." Vivian turned the laptop toward her. Spreadsheets. Company names, signature logs, transfer dates, property numbers. Lena did not understand the technicals, but even she could see patterns, movement, separation, quiet changes. 3 directors were changed in one shell company 6 weeks ago, Vivian said. 2 authorizations moved off a shared internal review path. A holding account was opened with unusually layered access. Nothing illegal on its face, but Adrian doesn't do anything on its face. Lena looked up. "Can you stop it?" "I can challenge it." "That sounds different." "It is." Vivian closed the laptop halfway and sat back. "If I challenge too early, he'll retreat, clean up, and tell everyone I'm paranoid. If I wait long enough, I may catch the full shape of what he's building." Her expression hardened, but waiting is expensive. Lena understood now why this woman could smile at public events while her marriage cooled into strategy. She had been forced to become patient in self-defense. "Why didn't you leave when you first saw what he was?" Lena asked. Vivian looked at her for a long moment. Then she said, "Because leaving a man like Adrian before you understand his full appetite is how you spend the next 10 years discovering what he took while you were trying to heal." That sat between them like a stone. Lena said nothing. Vivian opened a folder and slid out a single photograph, not a glamour shot, not a public image, a blurry surveillance-style picture taken outside an office building. Adrian and another woman. Not close enough to suggest romance, but close enough to suggest private familiarity. Lena recognized the face after a second. She's the name from that paper. Vivian nodded. Maya Sorrell. Who is she? Officially a consultant. Unofficially. Vivian's eyes cooled. That is what I'm trying to prove. Lena looked again at the photograph. Maya was elegant, sharply dressed, carrying a slim folder and walking half a step behind Adrian, but not like an employee, more like a woman used to access. You think she's the real affair? I think she may be one of the real risks. One of. Vivian gave a humorless smile. Men who live on admiration rarely feed from one plate. Lena leaned back, suddenly tired. So what am I then? Vivian's answer came fast and clear. You are the mirror. The words were simple, but they landed hard. He sees himself in you? Lena asked. No, he reveals himself in you. Vivian folded her hands. Maya may know his business face. You are showing me his appetite. That was almost worse, because appetite could explain everything else. The lies, the speed, the excuses, the financial secrecy, the way he kept reaching for new ground before securing old ground honestly. What now? Lena asked quietly. Vivian's face became unreadable again. Now we make him comfortable enough to talk carelessly. Lena frowned. How? Vivian hesitated just long enough for Lena to dislike the answer before it came. You give him a little hope. No. Vivian held her gaze. Not your body, not your safety, just emotional rope. That's still manipulation. Yes. I'm not good at this. You're good at truth, Vivian said. Use that. Ask questions. Let him think he is winning your trust by confessing around it. Lena stood up and walked toward the window. She needed distance from the table, from the files, from the photograph of Maya, from the calmness with which Vivian kept arranging pain into strategy. Outside, gardeners were trimming hedges in perfect lines. Everything in this house was neat. Even the betrayal had folders. What if he really leaves her? Lena asked suddenly. Vivian's voice behind her stayed level. Then he leaves. Lena turned. You say that like it doesn't hurt. Vivian met her eyes. Then quietly, there are things more insulting than a man leaving. One of them is a man staying while quietly preparing to erase your place before he goes. The room fell silent. Lena saw it then. Not just the betrayal, the humiliation. Adrian was not simply neglecting his marriage. He might be rearranging it, reducing Vivian's position before making any public move. Protecting himself while letting her stand in the old story, smiling at dinners and charity events, unaware in the eyes of the world. The cruelty of that was not loud. It was precise. That evening, Adrian texted again. I owe you a less defensive version of myself. Walk with me tomorrow? No crowds this time. Lena stared at the message. No crowds this time. He was escalating. Public places first, private motion next. Step by step. He wanted a setting where conversation could soften boundaries, where city air and slow walking could feel like honesty. She showed Vivian the message. Vivian read it and said, say yes. Lena looked at her sharply. You're very calm about this. Vivian handed the phone back. No, I'm very focused. The walk happened the next evening on the grounds of a private waterfront club where Adrian clearly knew people well enough not to be questioned. They moved along a paved path lined with low lamps and manicured shrubs. Water shimmered black beyond the railing. Soft music drifted from somewhere farther up the property. Adrian kept a respectful distance at first. He spoke less this time, less performance, more pauses. I think I came on too strong, he said after a while. You think? A slight smile. All right, I did. And I'm not used to wanting to slow down. Lena looked ahead, not at him. You speak as if wanting something is a virtue. No, Adrian said, as if resisting it is exhausting. That line was too honest to be accidental. She turned to him slightly. You don't seem like a man exhausted by himself. You seem like a man who usually gets agreement before consequences arrive. He laughed quietly. You really do see too much. Answer the question. He exhaled and leaned lightly against the railing, looking out over the water. My life has been arranged for years, he said. Every conversation has context, every room has expectation, every relationship has history attached to it. His voice lowered. You feel unarranged. Lena hated the effect of that sentence, not because it was romantic, because it was strategic and almost beautiful at the same time. And that makes you feel what? She asked. Free. There. That was the real word. Not love, not connection. Freedom. Lena watched him carefully. Free from your wife? His mouth tightened almost invisibly, free from the version of myself that marriage turned into. Convenient, she thought. Everything was always just outside his responsibility. Marriage turned him into this. Structure trapped him. Loneliness pushed him. Desire woke him. Nothing ever simply belonged to him. She let the silence stretch. Men filled silence when they wanted approval. Adrian did exactly that. I know how this sounds, he said again. You keep saying that. Because you keep looking at me like I'm one sentence away from being condemned. Maybe you are. He gave a low laugh, but there was strain in it now. Then condemn me honestly. Don't keep me in suspense. Lena tilted her head. All right, honestly? You sound like a man already halfway into betrayal, trying to rename it before anyone can call it what it is. The words landed cleanly. Adrian stared at her. For the first time since she had met him, he looked fully stripped of performance for one dangerous second. Then he said quietly, "What if I'm already past halfway?" Lena's pulse jumped. What does that mean? He looked down at the water, jaw tight. It means certain choices are already moving. Such as? He didn't answer. Adrian, he turned back to her. I'm handling things. That is not an answer. It's the only one I'm giving you tonight. She held his gaze. Then she said the thing Vivian needed and Lena feared. Does your wife know how final your plans are? Adrian's eyes changed, not with guilt, with calculation. And in that exact moment, Lena knew she had hit something real. She knows enough, he said. Lie, again. But this time the lie came later and harder. She stepped back from the railing. I should go. He reached for her wrist instinctively. Not hard, not violent, but too familiar. Lena looked down at his hand, then up at him. He released her immediately. Sorry, she said nothing. His face softened, regretful now, careful. I'm sorry. She believed he meant the timing was wrong, not the impulse. That made it worse. As they walked back toward the exit, Adrian's phone buzzed again. He took it out. His expression sharpened slightly this time. He answered, Hello? His voice was calm, but different. More alert. A woman's voice spilled faintly through the speaker before he moved the phone closer. Lena caught only one word clearly. Signature. Adrian glanced at her. I'll call you back. He ended it. Lena looked at him. Business? Yes. Urgent? Potentially. Woman? A faint smile. Jealous already? Lena stopped walking. His smile faded when he realized she wasn't playing. I'm leaving, she said. Lena? No. You don't get to speak vaguely about your dead marriage, act like I'm the one making you honest, then take urgent private calls from another woman and joke about jealousy. His face hardened briefly. That was work. Then learn how to make your lies less repetitive. She turned and kept walking. He did not follow immediately. Good, she thought, because if he had touched her arm again, she might have slapped him. Back in the car, she typed fast to Vivian. He said, choices are already moving. Wouldn't say more. I asked if you know how final his plans are. He lied again. A woman called during the walk, something about a signature. He said, business. I think I hit something real. Vivian answered almost at once. Come now. When Lena reached the house, Vivian was not in the sitting room. She was in a private office at the back of the house. The room was dim except for desk lamps and the blue-white glow of two screens. A man in his 50s wearing glasses sat across from her reviewing documents. He stood the moment Lena entered. This is Mr. Daramola, Vivian said. Our family lawyer. The man nodded politely and left without a word. Lena looked from the closing door back to Vivian. Family lawyer? Vivian rose slowly from behind the desk. There's been a filing, she said. Lena's stomach dropped. What kind of filing? Vivian held her gaze. Then she said, very clearly, my husband has begun taking steps to remove me from a chain of company protections he cannot legally touch without cause. The room seemed to tilt. What? Vivian picked up a document from the desk and handed it to her. Lena saw enough to understand only the shape of the danger. Formal language, board review request, concerns about decision efficiency, temporary restructuring, signature lines, cross-reference clauses. It was dressed like procedure, but it smelled like removal. He's doing this now? Lena whispered. Vivian's face stayed calm, but her eyes had gone colder than Lena had ever seen. Yes, because of the money? Because of control. Lena looked at the paper again, and then a thought hit her so sharply she almost dropped it. Did meeting me make him speed up? Vivian did not answer immediately. That was answer enough. Lena stared at her. Oh, God. Vivian took the document back and placed it flat on the desk. He thinks a next chapter may be available to him, she said. Men become bolder when they believe emotional replacement is within reach. Lena felt sick, not because she cared about Adrian, because her presence, even as a test, may have helped loosen something vicious in him. Vivian saw the guilt on her face at once. "This is not your fault," she said. "Then why does it feel like it?" "Because decent people always feel contaminated when they stand too close to selfish plans." Lena sank into the chair opposite the desk. For a few seconds, neither woman spoke. Then Vivian said, almost to herself, "He wants me blind while he rearranges the walls." Lena looked up. Vivian's expression had changed. Not broken, resolved. "What are you going to do?" Lena asked. Vivian lifted her chin slightly. "The same thing he thinks I'm incapable of." "And what is that?" A faint, cold smile touched her mouth. "I'm going to watch in silence." Lena stared. Vivian continued, voice low and steady. "I'm going to let him believe his timing is his own. I'm going to let him keep mistaking my calm for weakness, and when he has moved far enough, that retreat becomes impossible." Her eyes hardened. "I will show him that I was never the wife asleep in the room. I was the witness." A shiver ran down Lena's spine. This was bigger now. The emotional betrayal had not replaced the financial one. They were feeding each other. Adrian was speeding up, Vivian was sharpening, and somewhere between them, Lena had become the flame that made the shadows move. On her way out of the office, Vivian called her back. "One more thing." Lena turned. Vivian opened a drawer and took out a small, sealed envelope. "Keep this," she said. Lena frowned. "What is it?" "If anything shifts suddenly, open it." "What do you mean suddenly?" Vivian held her gaze. "If Adrian tries to offer you something bigger than jewelry, a trip, an apartment, protection, money, a future." She placed the envelope in Lena's hand. "Open it before you answer anything." Lena looked down at it. "What's inside?" Vivian's voice went quiet. "The truth about who I am to him in ways he will never tell you." Lena looked back up sharply. But Vivian had already turned to the desk again, her face lit by documents, screens, and the cold focus of a woman who had stopped hoping and started preparing. Lena left the house with the sealed envelope in her bag and unease pressing hard against her chest. By the time she reached home, Adrian had sent one message. "I hate how you leave when things begin to feel real." Lena stared at the words, then at the sealed envelope, then back at the message. She did not reply, because for the first time since this began, she was no longer just wondering how bad Adrian was. She was wondering how much of his life was already built on women discovering the truth too late. And deep in that question, another one waited with teeth. Who exactly was Vivian before she became the wife he thought he could quietly move aside? 3 days after the waterfront walk, Adrian finally crossed the line Vivian had been waiting for. He asked Lena to meet him in a private apartment in Lecky, one he called a quiet place away from noise. He said he was tired of hiding behind polite dinners and half-truths. He said he wanted to start being honest with her. He even offered to help her live more comfortably if she would trust him and stop treating him like a suspect. That was when Lena opened the sealed envelope Vivian had given her. Inside were copies of documents, a short handwritten letter, and one truth that changed everything. Adrian was never the true owner of the empire he boasted about. The wealth, the company protections, the holding structures, and the quiet legal power behind Vale Urban Developments were tied not to Adrian, but to Vivian's family trust. He had married into influence, then slowly rebranded it as his own. Publicly, he was the face of success. Privately, Vivian was the wall holding the whole structure up. The handwritten note was short. "If he offers you a future, know this. He is only bold because he thinks he has already stolen mine. Do not panic. Do not warn him. Let him speak. Tonight, he will bury himself." Vivian Lena sat on her bed, holding the letter with shaking fingers. For the first time, she fully understood who Vivian was. She was not just a rich wife trying to catch a cheating husband. She was the daughter of the original founder, the quiet, legal backbone. The woman whose family name opened the doors Adrian now walked through like they had always belonged to him. And Adrian, thinking she was emotionally weak and too graceful to fight dirty, had begun trying to shift assets, restructure authority, and prepare for a future where Vivian would be left with humiliation while he walked away with power. Lena did not cry. She did not panic. She called Vivian. Vivian answered on the first ring. "You know now," she said. Yes, Lena replied. A silence passed between them. Then Vivian asked, "Will you finish this with me?" Lena closed her eyes. She remembered Adrian's shameless messages, his dead marriage lies, his gift, his hand on her wrist. His voice saying he felt free with her while quietly trying to erase his wife from her own inheritance. "Yes," Lena said. "I'll finish it." That same week, Adrian made his boldest move. He sent Lena a message she immediately forwarded to Vivian. "There's a gala on Saturday. Big night. Big announcements. After that, a lot will change. I want to see you before everyone else sees the new version of my life." Vivian read the message and gave a cold smile. "He's doing it," she said. "What gala?" Lena asked. Vivian looked up from the phone. "The company anniversary dinner." Lena's stomach turned. "He's going to announce something?" "Yes," Vivian said, "and he thinks I'll be standing there smiling when he does." Saturday arrived dressed in gold and glass. The company anniversary gala was held in a grand hall filled with politicians, investors, board members, journalists, and family friends. Everywhere there were chandeliers, polished floors, expensive perfume, and the soft, arrogant confidence of people used to power. Adrian moved through the room like a man already congratulating himself. He greeted guests, shook hands, accepted praise, and wore his usual careful smile. Maya Sorrell was there too, dressed in deep blue, carrying herself with the careful poise of a woman who expected to belong more openly very soon. A few board members stayed unusually close to Adrian, which told Vivian everything she needed to know. He had already been talking, already planting stories, already preparing the room. Vivian arrived in silver again, calm, elegant, controlled. No one looking at her would have guessed she knew exactly what kind of speech Adrian intended to make. Lena arrived later, not as his secret and not as a frightened witness, but in a fitted black dress, composed, deliberate, and fully aware now of the role she had played in his downfall. Adrian saw her from across the room. For 1 second, his face changed. He had not expected her there. Not publicly. Not under those lights. Not where his wife could also see. But he recovered quickly. Men like Adrian always did. He gave Lena the smallest warning look, as if telling her silently to behave. That was his final mistake. When the speeches began, Adrian took the stage to applause. He thanked the guests, praised the company's growth, spoke about vision, transition, and the courage to embrace a new era. Then his voice softened in that dangerous way Lena had come to hate. "Sometimes," he said, "success requires difficult personal and professional decisions. Sometimes loyalty to truth demands that we stop pretending old structures still serve the future." Vivian sat still. Lena sat still. The room listened. Adrian continued, each sentence smoother than the last. He spoke about restructuring leadership, about efficiency, about a refined direction for the company. Then, carefully, he began stepping toward what he truly wanted, to publicly shift sympathy before Vivian could expose him. He was trying to sound noble, trying to make betrayal look like courage, trying to frame his wife as the past before she ever opened her mouth. Then he said the sentence that ended him. "I have carried certain burdens in silence for too long." Vivian rose from her seat. The room changed immediately. Not loudly, but completely. She did not rush. She did not tremble. She simply stood, every eye slowly turning toward her as she lifted one hand and said with quiet clarity, "No, Adrian, you carried my name. That is what you carried." The hall went dead silent. Adrian turned on stage, smiling tightly. "Vivian, not now." She began walking toward the stage. "Now is perfect," she replied. The silence deepened, cameras shifted, faces tightened, board members straightened in their seats. Adrian gave a strained chuckle into the microphone. "My wife is emotional. This is a family matter." Vivian stopped below the stage and looked up at him. "No, this is a fraud matter." The air left the room. She turned slightly. "Mr. Daramola." Their family lawyer stood from the front table with 2 additional legal officers and a folder thick enough to frighten any guilty man. Adrian's face lost color for the first time. Vivian's voice remained calm. "You told this room a story for years," she said, "that you built this empire through hunger, brilliance, and sacrifice. What you never told them is that the core protections, founding interests, and controlling trust behind Vale Urban Developments came through my family long before your name was polished enough to sit beside mine." A murmur broke through the hall. Adrian stepped down from the stage, still smiling too hard. "Vivian, stop this." But she went on. You began moving assets quietly 6 weeks ago. You attempted to restructure authority without legal cause. You used shell pathways and layered authorizations to prepare for my removal while preserving your public image. And while doing all that, her eyes lifted and found Maya in the crowd. You kept preparing replacements in business, in loyalty, in narrative. All eyes swung toward Maya. Maya went pale. Adrian's voice sharpened. This is absurd. Then Lena stood. That was the second blow. She did not raise her voice. She did not create drama. She simply said, "Should I read your messages, Adrian?" The room froze again. His head snapped toward her. Lena stepped forward, phone in hand. You told me your wife was a history people kept forcing into the present. You told me your marriage was dead. You told me meeting me clarified things. You invited me to private apartments while asking this room to trust your integrity. She held up the phone. Would you like me to continue? The room was no longer murmuring. It was staring. Adrian looked from Lena to Vivian and suddenly understood. Not everything, but enough. His expression changed from outrage to something colder. You, he said to Lena. Vivian answered for her. Yes, her. Adrian finally saw the shape of the trap, not a random temptation, not an accident. A mirror, a witness, a test he had failed so thoroughly he had exposed not only his appetite but his timing. He laughed once in disbelief. You set me up. Vivian's face did not move. No, she said. I gave you opportunity. You supplied the character. That line landed like a blade. Adrian's public mask began to crack. You manipulated private conversations. Vivian took one more step forward. And you manipulated a marriage, a company, financial structures, and every woman you thought would help you feel powerful. Spare us your outrage. Maya stood suddenly and tried to leave. Mr. Daramola spoke without raising his voice. Miss Sorrell, you may want to stay. Your consultancy contracts are part of the review. She froze. Now the whole room knew this was bigger than gossip. This was legal. This was money. This was blood under marble floors. Adrian looked around and realized the room that usually leaned toward him had leaned away. One investor avoided his eyes. A board member whispered to another. A journalist quietly lowered her phone, then raised it again when she realized this was history. Vivian nodded to Mr. Daramola. The lawyer opened the folder. With immediate effect, he announced, all attempted restructuring requests submitted under Mr. Adrian Vale's discretionary path are suspended pending investigation. Certain signature authorizations have already been challenged and frozen. Emergency review of fiduciary conduct is now active. Adrian went fully still. That was the moment he knew it was over. Not because Vivian was angry, because she had come prepared. Because she had not confronted him in tears at home. She had waited until retreat was impossible. His voice dropped low and vicious. Vivian, do you really want to do this here? She met his gaze with terrifying calm. You started it here. Then she delivered the final reveal. And since you love public truth so much, let's finish it publicly too. I was the one protecting your place in this company after my father died, not because you earned it, because I believed marriage meant building together. While you were busy auditioning side chapters, I was the reason the first chapter did not collapse. Adrian had no answer, because there was none. Lena watched him closely then, and for the first time since she met him, he looked like a man stripped of language, no charm, no elegant sadness, no tired husband speech, just exposure. He looked at Lena next, and whatever he saw in her face made him flinch deeper than Vivian's words had, because Lena was no longer a possibility. She was proof, and proof was harder to seduce than a woman. The fallout was immediate. The board suspended Adrian pending full review. 2 financial pathways were frozen. Maya, seeing the floor disappear beneath her, cooperated faster than anyone expected. She gave up emails, draft authorizations, and details about the pressure Adrian had placed on her. She had not been his lover in the end, only another person he thought he could use, though he had clearly hoped to make her more. That truth did not save him. It made him look worse. Because it showed pattern. He did not love deeply. He used efficiently. The press called it a restructuring scandal first, then a marital power war, then something closer to the truth. A quiet betrayal exposed by the very kind of woman he thought he could keep invisible. Vivian filed for divorce on grounds far stronger than infidelity. She did not scream in court. She did not beg for sympathy. She simply dismantled the false story Adrian had built around himself and walked away with what had always been hers. Adrian lost his executive control, his access, his polished authority, and most painfully, the respect of rooms he had once ruled through tone alone. Men like him could survive gossip. What they rarely survived was documented greed tied to disloyalty. Lena received every naira Vivian had promised her, but that was not the real reward. Lena smiled faintly. I wanted him to lose properly. For the first time, Vivian laughed. A real laugh. Small, tired, but real. Then she placed a new envelope on the table. Lena looked at it suspiciously. What now? Vivian folded her hands. Investment papers. Lena blinked. For what? For your studio. The makeup and styling business you keep describing like it's a side dream instead of the main one. Lena stared. I'm not charity, Vivian added calmly. I'm offering partnership capital, fair terms, legal paperwork, full transparency. You helped me when truth was expensive. I don't forget that. Lena's throat tightened. No hidden test? She asked softly. Vivian's expression softened at last. No hidden test, Lena accepted. Months later, her studio opened. Small, elegant, growing. Her mother cried the first day she saw the sign outside. Her brother stood straighter. And Lena, who had once sat in a cafe wondering whether survival was making her a bad person, finally understood something bigger. Some women entered your life as storms. Some entered as mirrors. And some arrived disguised as both. As for Adrian, he tried for a while to recover the old version of himself. Men like him always did. He gave one carefully worded interview, blamed private misunderstandings, hinted at emotional strain, and tried to make the collapse sound mutual. It failed, because once the truth had a face, his old performance no longer worked. People remembered the messages, the filings, the timing, the wife in silver standing up in a room full of power and exposing him with a voice barely above polarization. That image followed him longer than any headline. In the end, then, that was Vivian's revenge. Not noise, not destruction, not begging him to see her value. She simply let the world see his, and it was smaller than everyone thought. Final ending, the scandal ended, the marriage ended, the lies ended. But the real story was never just about catching a cheating husband. It was about a man who thought loyalty was something women owed him, while honesty was something he could postpone. It was about a wife who tested his heart and uncovered his greed. It was about a young woman who agreed to play a side chick, only to become the witness that brought a whole false empire down. And in the cruelest twist of all for Adrian, the woman he tried to betray quietly was the same woman who had been holding his world together all along. He thought he was choosing between women. He did not realize he was choosing between truth and ruin. And he chose ruin. What did you learn from these stories? Drop a comment like these video and share it to someone who needs to watch it. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to these channel Real African Stories and turn on your notification button so you won't miss these next one. See you.